Hello, welcome back to the Dumb Bitch Book Club. I'm Chandler.
I'm Hayden.
And today we're going to be talking about The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. Hayden picked this one for us. He has been trekking his way through the entire series. What book are you on now?
Almost. I'm about to start 14.
Is that the last one?
No, 15 is the last one.
Okay, so he's almost finished with the series, and he somehow corralled me into reading this first book. I was sort of influenced too because the show has just come out, and we started watching some episodes of that. Once we got, I think, like 3 or 4 episodes in, I was like, okay, like I feel prepared and ready to read the book. And so I did.
Yeah, and I'm kind of excited about it because, you know, it's one of the first times that...
You've actually gotten to pick a book for this?
Yeah, and like that's the thing. I don't really feel like I picked it because I wasn't like, hey, can we do this for the series? I was just like, will you read this book?
You did ask me though if I would talk about it with you.
Yeah.
You didn't say specifically for Dumb Bitch Book Club, but like, it's kind of a given.
That's fair.
I guess we can do it how we normally do it and talk about our initial ratings and thoughts. So, do you want to go first? This is your book.
Initial rating, like...
For this book, not the series, just
No,
the first book.
I know, but I'm trying to think about it because I think that my perspective on it has changed
Since reading the other
since
books.
reading the other
That's
books,
fair.
you know? Because I do think that a lot of things that happen in this book are important to the rest of the series. That being said, I do think that it is one of the slower books, as is like the first book of most fantasy series that I've read. And I think that there's a lot of like building the basis of storylines that progress and grow, you know,
Okay.
throughout the rest of the series
That's
into
fair enough.
like bigger and better things.
So, from a Goodreads rating perspective, 1 to 5, where would you rate this? Especially, I guess, now knowing that you've read all the other books, where does this really rate for you?
I would say this one is still like, for me, like a solid 4.
I think, for me, let me just talk about my overall thoughts, I guess, before I really hit you with that rating. I don't want to say really boring. That feels a little mean. I think for me, this was so unlike most fantasy books that I have read thus far. I didn't read Lord of the Rings, which is very much the influence for this first book. So I didn't really have a lot to go off of, I guess you could say. I didn't have a lot of like, you know, context going into this book. And most of the other adult fantasies I've read just have a completely different feeling. I think this was one of the first series after Lord of the Rings that really like set the stage, I guess, for new adult fantasies coming out.
Yeah.
At least that's what I've heard from Daniel Green.
Like big expanses.
Yeah.
Yeah, shouts out to Daniel Green. Been watching a lot
All
of his videos since starting the series.
I guess for me, this was just so different than anything I've read. And I think I did a little bit of a disservice to this book trying to read The Way of Kings before. Because, no offense to Robert Jordan, I really feel like Brandon Sanderson is just more like my speed. I feel like his writing style really connects with me, and I feel like he's a lot more succinct. So...
Yeah, I mean, that's like definitely one of the main criticisms of
Yeah.
like the first book and like Robert Jordan's...
writing in general. And I will say that made the world feel a little bit more immersive, and I appreciated that. But I think the things I just mentioned, coupled with the fact that I know this about myself personally, I do not like journeys in books. People just walking around kind of aimlessly doing shit, meeting people, I don't like that. So that really made this book unenjoyable for me. That being said, I liked the end of this book so much that I would be perhaps interested in reading the next book, because I'm pretty sure not all of them are going to be this kind of like plotting. We're just going from place to place.
No, and I think I've told you before that like
It does
it's
evolve.
really just the first book, maybe the first like 2 books that people are actually walking a bunch of places. It's not that people don't travel after
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I'm assuming it's
but-
fantasy, you have to places.
But, you know, from this book and, you know, parts of maybe, like, the next book or 2, there's a lot of emphasis on, like, the actual journey itself, right? Whereas I would say that most of the rest of the series, you don't really see them traveling very much. You, like, see them arrive at a destination and do things there,
Yeah.
you know?
And I think that's more my speed. I will say something that Murphy mentioned in one of her videos was that part of the journey is interesting because whenever, we'll talk about it later, the characters kind of split up. You get to see more of their personality, and I do think in some ways the journey bothered me less after they split up because I was understanding more about the characters. That is really my main issue, is just like too much fucking journeying. Where's the cool shit happening? Happened in the last 200 pages, but also like, oh my god, this book is so long. So my rating is somewhere between a 2.5 and a 3 star. I am intrigued enough to carry on with the book, but I did not personally love my reading experience of this book. I guess now that we've given our initial thoughts, we can go ahead and get into like the general plot of the book and talk about all that shit.
And probably throughout we'll probably be comparing a little bit to the show.
Oh, that's something I forgot to mention, or did I mention at the beginning? I don't really remember. I did start with the show. I did mention that. So for me, it was interesting interesting going into the book afterwards and making comparisons. And I feel like for me, spoiler alert, I enjoy the show more than I enjoyed this first book. And I think a lot of that is, you know, the visual components and some of the backstory they added to certain characters that wasn't present in the books kind of made me more interested in general. So yeah, I'll probably be mentioning a couple times like, didn't like this character in the book, but I like him in the show. So now we're gonna go ahead and talk about the book. I know there's a lot of fanfare, but now let's get into it. Do you want to open us up with some plot? That is your strong suit.
So you know, the beginning of the book, we get the view of Lews Therin, who is one of the last like dragons. We get this view of him coming to from like this spell that's been put over him essentially, and he realizes that he's killed all of his family and friends, and he's like kind of gone mad. He is kind of being mentally tortured, decides to essentially kill himself using the one power, creates a mountain in his explosion of raw power. This was one thing that I really wish that they would have put in the show, and even though it is very confusing and they don't really talk that much about it in book 1, I thought that it would have been a much better cold open than the weird like trailer-esque cold open that they had in the first episode of the show.
And I understand they were trying to like set up this, you know, backstory and or give you some context going into it, because if there's no context going into the show, you have no fucking clue what's going on.
But that being said, I felt like the whole first season of a show like Game of Thrones was entirely confusing because there were so many ideas and characters. But that being said, everyone loved that show because they didn't just like straight spoon feed you everything.
Absolutely.
You
I
know?
feel like there could be a little bit less of that in
there
this show.
was just a lot of spoon feeding. It is a very big juxtaposition from when I remember reading the intro to this first book and hearing all of this stuff, and I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea who any of these characters were. And I just remember being so confused, and then the payoff of, you know, learning these things throughout the series
absolutely.
is much better than just having it like spoon-fed to you in the very beginning.
That can be sort of a pitfall of creating something from a beloved work. Like, you want people to be as invested as you are, and so maybe you do spoon-feed a little bit when you're creating it. But I do think you have to give a little bit more credit to your audience who's able to piece things together, and I think had they had that intro, and we immediately pretty much learned about the dragon, even without Moraine's like trailer-esque intro, I feel like it would have been a little bit more impactful and interesting.
And I think it would have shown how, one of the things that I liked about it is it shows how powerful the dragon is and like how important the dragon is in terms of...
I think that's true, because I think we don't really get that in the show, and I honestly, I kind of don't feel like we do besides that intro in the story itself. Like, we keep hearing about this dragon.
Yeah, well, you're not really supposed to, because it's like kind of a mystery, but I think that it is a little underwhelming how much people talk about the dragon in the show, because I mean he's literally a legend in the series.
And
every age has like a dragon.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I do actually feel like the way that I think they tried to solve that a little bit was actually showing us Logan in the show.
Yes.
I think that helped.
So
we'll talk about that later.
So we come out of this intro into Emmons Field, and we meet all of the Emmons Field gang. So first of all, I just wanted to ask you your thoughts about the Emmons Fielders, right? So we have Rand. In my opinion, in the first book, is just kind of annoying.
Yes, no, agree. But I can't help but like him because he's so hot in the show. And I think that really helped my reading experience. Frankly, this book was so fucking hard for me to get through. I listened to it on audiobook, and the audiobook is fantastic, don't get me wrong. But for me, I really liked having a visual reference in my head whenever I was listening, and just imagining whoever plays Rand, he's really hot, and I really appreciated that when I was listening. My overall thoughts, okay. I found them all quite irritating, and I'm glad that they aged them up for the show, and I think toned down maybe some of the irritating and or stereotype-ish features. I really feel like in this first book, Rand feels so obviously the hero of the story. He is the one that has not the most voice of the characters, but he definitely has, the makings of like the hero. Like, you can definitely tell he is the one. He's probably going to be the dragon, even if you didn't know anything about it. I think if you listen to him talk, it's very, very clear.
And he also gets the most coverage by far.
Absolutely, and I feel like whenever we end up kind of getting a different perspective later on in the book, I think it's Moraine's perspective, I was like, finally, like, someone else talking besides Rand. And it's not first person, but we follow him very closely, and I was just like, I am so bored with this man. He is so irritating.
I remember being so tripped out by that perspective change when it happened in the first book. Because,
I was surprised too.
Because they don't do it until so long into the book, right? And then they just do it for like a very short amount of time, and then they go back.
I was pretty sad.
And then the rest of the books are all just like different perspectives. Every chapter, every like half a chapter is a
and
different
I'm down with that. And I do think that's, you've told me that.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that, and so that is part of the reason, again, why I'm considering reading the rest of the books.
Yeah.
So Rand, it was very obvious, kind of irritating, but like, he's the main character, right? And then the other ones.
And they're also, I will say, like, they're irritating, but part of me kind of likes their irritating bits because they're supposed to be children that, like, aren't special at this point. Like, they're literally just random kids from a village.
But here's the thing. While they are different to an extent, I feel like there was not a whole lot of variation in the ways in which they handled things, especially the four kids, compared to, like, Nynaeve, because she has a different, like, perspective. I really felt like they all sort of had this naivete, and I understand, again, why that is, and I'm sure the transformation's fantastic, whatever, but they all really irritated me. If you're trying to make characters different and you want them to have some variation, they're going to handle situations differently. And I guess you could argue that they do. I just didn't really see that. They all kind of seemed a little bit dumb, a little bit too gullible, a little bit too willing to jump into situations. And I wanted at least one or two of the characters to not be like that. And again, that's just my perspective. I'm not saying that's like hard and fast like the facts, but that's just how I felt reading it. I would say Matt was the differentiator for me. Perrin's a little too boring to be a differentiator. Matt at least had a little bit more of an attitude, and I think that helped a little bit. Egwene kind of pissed me off. Like, I like her so much more in the show than I do in the book.
It takes, in the books, it takes a long time, in my opinion, for me to start liking Egwene. Like, she's kind of just annoying for the first, irritating. Like, while in the series.
And I feel like in the show, they're able to kind of show some of her stubbornness and make it something that is, you know, you go bitch. In the book, I'm like, you're just kind of fucking annoying. So yeah, that's my perspective on her. I do like Nynaeve. I think she is probably my favorite of the five of them, and I think, again, that comes
so interesting.
That comes from the maturity that she has, and like.
But she's so immature as well. Like,
I know, but like
you're just saying she's mature just because she's angry all the time, or like.
Yeah, you might be right. I don't know. Her resistance makes for an interesting foil to the other characters.
That is true.
Egwene, she's like, ooh, I want to be a nice guy. And then Nynaeve's like, fuck no. And I liked that, okay? I liked the attitude that she had. So.
Yeah, you would.
I would
be a first book Nynaeve stan.
Nynaeve stan, yeah. Okay, so I like her. That's my thoughts.
Also, it's interesting to me that you liked Matt. Just
I wouldn't
because
say I liked him, but I appreciated that he was different than these other boring ass people.
But what was interesting to me is, like, I kind of had a different perspective from you when I read through it, because when I read through it, I thought Matt was boring. That, like, Perrin was much more interesting in the first book. He can talk to wolves. Spoiler alert. How is that not more interesting than, like, just being a bit of a prankster, you know? Not only is he a bit of a prankster, but, like...
Okay, he's kind of an idiot. Yeah, he's like...
He goes through this whole phase where he's, like, essentially, like, infected by some shadow shit, asleep in an asshole for, like, multiple chapters. Probably, like, a third of the book, he's just kind of not really present.
You might be right, but I think another thing is that I can't necessarily separate the characters from the plot, and I found Perrin and Egwene's side quest pretty fucking uninteresting. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't care that you got captured.
I guess. I thought that story was more interesting for sure when I read it through it the first time.
And I also think part of that is my judgment of the show. Like, God, them just walking around this barren desert, like, I don't give a fuck. And I don't really care about Matt and Rand's side quest either.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they do even less.
But, like, at least they had the is it friend?
Dark Friends?
Is it Friends? I listened.
Yes.
Okay.
Friend of the Dark.
Okay, yeah. At least they had some encounters with Dark Friends, and it was, you know, at least kind of interesting. Especially in the show, too. We got that, like, lady who's like, I'm gonna seduce you, but I gotta murder you, too. That's my thoughts. Oh, wait, we can also talk about Moraine and Lan, because we meet them in... Emmonsfield. I like Moraine. I like her less than I do in the show. I feel like in the show, she's more willing to, like, get her hands dirty. I feel like we get a little bit more of her personality. And I'm not saying that, like, they are analogous or that they're the same in any way, because they're not. I feel like Rosamund Pike's kind of doing her own thing with Moraine's character a little bit, which I like. I just feel like in the book, she's a little bit too one-dimensional, at least in this first book, and I'm assuming we're gonna get more context, but I think that's part of her thing, from what Hayden told me. Like, she comes from a culture or a world before she, you know, became an Aes Sedai, that she is a little bit uptight and, like, a little bit, I don't know, she just doesn't reveal a lot about herself from the interactions that we've had in this first book.
Get ready for that, because none of the Aes Sedai reveal any things about themselves. Like, you only find things out about Aes Sedai from either other Aes Sedai or people that knew them before they were Aes Sedai.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough.
For the entire series. That's like their whole thing. They won't give you any information that they don't absolutely have to.
Okay. I mean, fair enough. I was surprised at how much I didn't really care about her in the book, when in the show, she's certainly one of my favorites. I mean, Rosamund Pike's fantastic. Like, she's such an incredible actor, so...
Yeah, I will kind of agree with you somewhat on that, where, like, in this first book, they don't give her a whole lot besides just being the hard-ass...
Well, that and the explainer. Like, she is the one that's explaining all of these things to the kids, and so she doesn't get enough of her own, I don't know, like, motivation there. Like, I don't really understand why she's helping them, except for, like, it's her duty. And so it didn't really, I don't know, it just didn't really speak to me a ton.
Well, yeah, and to give you a bit of context without spoiling anything for anyone else, and I think that they talk about it in the first book too. The Blue Aja, which she is a part of, like, kind of fights for causes and is more of the political and, like, strategic Aja. She has been tasked with finding the Dragon Reborn, because it's a huge thing, you know, if the dragon has actually been reborn.
Yeah, and I mean, I would want to get all the glory too. I get it, but I just don't think that her personality...
No, she's not trying to get all the glory.
I know.
But...
I'm not saying she does. I'm just saying I could understand it.
Her motivation is that she legitimately believes in, like, the cause. They don't really do a great job of talking about it in the show, but when she meets the people in Emond's Field, she's already been searching for over 20 years.
These bitches not die?
They live longer than normal people, but they definitely die.
I mean, sure. I just think that as a motivation is not that inspiring and or easy to relate to. She's not a relatable character.
No, she's not a relatable character in general. I mean, like, she fights for grand causes that, like, she might never actually see the fruits of.
Like, think about it from your... Like, do you care about the good of humanity?
To a certain extent.
I mean, like, yeah, sure, like, we all do. But I'm just saying, like, would you make it your life's journey to, like, find some people as you could save the world?
If I had to,
I wouldn't.
but
I'm just fat chillin'.
No, but I would also never be an Aes Sedai, so there's that.
Oh, yeah, you are a man.
Well, no, not because of that. I just, like, wouldn't put up with that shit for that long.
Yeah, it doesn't sound super fun.
No.
Or fulfilling. So, anyway, Moraine, not really, like, my fave, in the book at least. Lan, on the other hand, I did like quite a bit.
Lan is just the GOAT, like, in the book and in the show. Yeah.
Also hot in the show. Also helped me with my reading experience.
I would have been so upset if they did my boy Lan dirty in the show. Yeah. I like actually would not watch the show if they did him dirty.
That's fair.
And
I think
so
they've done
far,
a really good job.
So far, he's the best character in the show for sure. He's also just one of the best characters in the books as well. Even though he's, you know, he's not very talkative most of the time.
But when he does talk, it has an impact.
Yeah,
like some of these
badass.
other fucking chattery bitches. Okay, let's keep on with the plot, because I feel like we've been talking about this shit for a while.
Well, I mean, these are the important things to talk about, you know? It's like, these are the big... If you're listening to this, or you're watching the show, you're gonna know the story eventually, you know? So...
That's true. I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't give our opinions, that's the whole fucking point, but people are here to listen to us talk about the plot of the book.
I guess. Well, yeah, so we encounter the Emond's Field gang, we learn a little bit about them.
We learn about all the other stupid motherfuckers in the town who I don't care about, all these old people.
I do, but that's because they're reoccurring. Yeah, so Nynaeve's the wisdom, Egwene is going to be her apprentice. They're about to have the Beltane festival, which is just, I don't know, they don't really talk too much about it, but it's just essentially like a harvest festival in Emond's Field.
It's just co-opted from Beltane, which is a...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right before this festival, like the day before, Moraine shows up with Lan, and everyone's like, why is there an Aes Sedai here? They don't really talk about it. She doesn't really say anything about why she's there.
And I don't think she says she's an Aes Sedai when she first gets there either.
Yeah, I think everyone just kind of knows.
I didn't think that was the case. I think no one knew, because whenever...
I'm getting confused by, like,
the
way that the show has done it. Yeah.
So, I'm pretty sure they don't know she's an Aes Sedai, but whenever the Trollocs come and Homeboy's bringing his broken-ass daddy to town again, he's like, can somebody help? And someone's like, hey, I think Moraine might be able to help you. And he's like, what? And she's like, yeah, like, I'm an Aes Sedai or whatever. And he's like, oh my god. Like, I don't really want to trust you, but I gotta trust you to save my daddy.
It was beautiful. Beautiful explanation.
Thank you.
Said I was gonna have to drive this. Look at you.
Look at you. And he accused me of not listening, and I listened. Yeah, he likes to give me shit for listening to shit on 3 times speed. But you know what? I know stuff.
I don't really care about you listening on 3 times speed. I mostly like to give you shit whenever you
Or, like,
are listening.
I don't know what's happening.
You're listening and then you press pause and you're like, I have no idea what's going on. And I'm like, well, it's not... They describe it for 20 minutes each, you know? Like,
fair enough.
You're saying they over-describe, yet you don't know what's going on.
Well, some things get a little twisty.
No, I know.
But I did end up, like, having... Oh, God, I can't even remember. If I can link it, because I was really impressed by the synopses. There's a chapter-by-chapter plot summary on this website, and I would read the chapter summaries after I listened to them just to kind of reinforce the things that I was learning, and that helped a lot, especially when I was listening to it at 3 times speed, though that's not that uncommon for me, so it wasn't like I was just trying to get through it all the way I was.
So, anyways, Trollocs attack Emmons Field the night of Beltane. Moraine...
It didn't... I will mention this. It didn't seem very dramatic to me in the book.
In the book?
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't as dramatic as it was in the show,
Way
where it was
cooler in the
like
show.
everyone's like dancing, having a jolly time, and then this man just gets axed.
Way cooler. And I don't really... Did anyone die in the books? It didn't...
Yeah.
I don't know. They were talking about, like, some homes were attacked and some weren't.
Well, I mean, that's how it works,
yeah.
you know?
But I guess there was so much emphasis on that I was like, well, the ones that were attacked, like, whatever, we don't hear about them very much, like the dead people.
I guess that's true.
So I just didn't really... You don't feel the impact of it like you do on the show, seeing people being axed down and, like, dragged by their braids.
So, they get attacked. Moraine tells Rand and Matt and Perrin and Egwene, hey, these Trollocs are here for you. You guys don't want your village to keep getting attacked, then you gotta come with me.
us,
yeah. They're kind of like, what are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, one of you is gonna be big, you know, essentially. She's like, one of you guys is important, the Trollocs want you. Don't really know which one of you, so all of you gotta come with.
And, like, I know there's a little bit of a time crunch, less so in the books than in the show, but I feel like I would have maybe raised some questions like, hey, I get that, but if it's only one of us, can we figure out who the fuck that is so I don't have to go on this little trek, you know? And I know that would have made the book non-existent, but I feel like someone should have asked that question. Can we figure out who it is before we leave?
But I mean, some of them want to explore. Like, none of them have gone past essentially like a city away from them, like a town away.
That's fair.
So they're like, I guess we get to see the world?
But I still feel like I would have been like, yeah, I want to see the world, but I also don't want to be attacked by these crazy, like, evil creatures.
But that being said, I mean, you gotta also think about the only reason that people really survived in the town is because there was an Aes Sedai there. And so if you are going to be attacked by Trollocs anyways, isn't being with the Aes Sedai probably the safest place to be?
Fair enough.
So anyways, she's like, you gotta come with us. They all leave Emmons Field, and they're gonna make their way to Tar Valon, right? Because in Moraine's mind, one of them is the dragon reborn. She's just gonna take them all to Tar Valon and just like figure out who it is either along the way or once they get there. You know, she's like, I've done my job essentially.
Bunch of kids.
This is the one.
Put 'em in my
Someone
pocket.
here is the one.
Carry him with me.
So they go on a long journey. Let's see. I think
Not
like the
a lot
next
of shit happens until they get to Shadar Logoth.
Yeah, this like abandoned city, and you get a little bit of backstory that, you know, it was once like taken by an evil from greed, essentially, and the greed and the paranoia. The like greed and the paranoia kind of like overtake the city, and like it kills itself. But the evil still lives within the city, and Moraine's like, we can be here, but don't touch anything, please.
Okay, but like that doesn't make sense. Like, what about your feet? Can your feet touch the ground?
Yeah, no. She just means like don't
I know.
take anything from the city. You know,
yeah. She should have been a little more specific.
Yeah,
which we find out later.
Yeah, we find out later, and so in the book, Matt encounters this like spooky guy.
Yeah.
Named Mordeth. You want to see? Hey kids, you want some candy?
He's like, yo, I got some treasure.
You want some treasure?
Help me load up my wagon.
Yeah.
I think it's a horse, but whatever. He's like, get the shit and bring it out here, and I'll let you have a little bit.
Yeah.
Candy in the van.
Yeah, and so I'm pretty sure Rand is there with him, right?
I think so. Yeah, because he's like, why don't you strapping young lads help me with my shit?
Yeah. And Rand's like, I think I'm good on this,
Better
right?
not,
Yeah, and Matt is also like, yeah, we probably shouldn't, but unbeknownst to Rand, Matt actually slips this jewel dagger out of the treasure pile and takes it with him, right?
As you should.
We find out later that this dagger is tainted with Mashadar, which is like the evil spirit that infects Shadar Logoth. Matt slowly begins to
descend into
kind of turn evil-ish. Like, he just becomes an absolute
He has an
piece
infection.
of shit. Yeah, but his infection is becoming a piece of shit, and like he has
So
starts
says
to.
you. I was kind of interested in it.
Well, but he starts to like do. He starts to show the signs of what happened to the city of Shadar Logoth. He becomes untrustworthy and untrustful. He becomes an asshole and like snipes at everyone for everything.
It just sounds like
He doesn't want to see the sun. Like, he just kind of sleeps all day and is just like an absolute grouch and kind of wants to stab people. And like, no one really knows why. But that's all happening on their travel because they get separated at Shadar Logoth into like a couple of groups, right? Lan, Moraine, and Nynaeve kind of trekking on their own now. Egwene and Perrin are trekking on their own. And Matt and Rand trekking on their own. Well, Matt, Rand, and Tom. Because in the books, Tom is with them the whole time. In the show, Tom doesn't show up until what I'm assuming they're portraying as Whitebridge. Yeah, we're separate.
Going our
I'm just trying to
ways.
decide on which
path to go down.
Yeah, which path we go down.
Let's go most boring first. Egwene and Perrin.
So Egwene and Perrin are alone, kind of walking through like the plains, essentially.
Yeah.
Encounter a man by the name of Elias.
I liked him.
Yeah, Elias is a really cool guy.
The first thing that first and kind of only thing I wrote down in my notes was, this man is actually interesting.
Yeah, and he's another person that I'm not sure if they're going to add to the show, but I don't know how they're not going to add to the show.
Is he important later?
It's in the wrong time already because he meets
before,
them before they meet the Tuatha.
Yes, exactly.
And kind of like leads them to the Tuatha and is like, these people will give you help, and they're like, yo, what up, Elias? We know you. You know, like, you're welcome to, like, chill for a minute, but obviously you can't stay with us because we know you, but we also don't really like you. Because the Tuatha, the traveling people, the Tinkers, follow the way of the Leaf, which is to commit no act of violence or, like, harm onto others.
Like a Quaker.
Elias
doesn't really buy that shit.
Yeah, doesn't buy that shit because we find out that Elias is a wolf man. He can talk to wolves.
I kind of missed that, actually, but cool.
He's the one who teaches Perrin about it. He's like, I can talk to wolves, and so can you, buddy. And Perrin's like, nah, I can't do that shit. And he's like, yeah, you kind of can. You're just ignoring it, pretending like you can't. So we find out Perrin can talk to wolves, which is why I was like, thought that his storyline was more interesting.
Yeah, to be honest, whenever they started meeting the old Tinkers, I was like, I'm not gonna pay any more fucking attention to this storyline, and I think that's why I kind of missed some of that. Now that you're mentioning it, I missed some of this wolfy shit. I did remember there were wolves. That's about all I remember.
To make a long story short, eventually
they meet some white cloaks.
They meet some white cloaks.
They get captured.
They get captured, and the white cloaks kill some wolves.
So he's like, I'm gonna kill some of you.
Yeah, because the wolves that he killed were Perrin's friends.
You killed my friends, I'll kill you.
It's worth mentioning that he's hyped up in this moment, right? Like he's
not a killer.
They talk about all the time that Perrin is very big for his age, and he's always been big. They talk about how he has always had to take time and like think about things and not overreact because he could actually accidentally hurt someone because he's big. So yeah, he is hyped up right now because he doesn't really commit acts of violence, and not only is he committing acts of violence now because he's like enraged, he's also like feeling all of these feelings from the wolves who are super scared, and he can also like smell fear on other people.
Sexy.
So he's like smelling the fear of the white cloaks too, and so he's just like all jacked up on a bunch of shit, and he kills 2 people for killing these wolves. And then they like really like pin him down, then they get him arrested, and they sentence him to death.
Yeah, but then he gets saved and it's no biggie.
And then they're out of there.
Yep. Now we can do Rand and Matt, I guess.
And Tom.
Sure.
Rand, Matt, and Tom travel together. Tom kind of teaches them some of the arts of being a gleeman, teaches them how to play some music, even though they're clumsy sheep herders who can't hold a tune.
I thought it was just Rand.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he just like, they're just like village people, you know?
Village people, okay.
Yeah, they take a ride on a boat, Captain Bale Doman.
God damn, I did not care about this
to get a ride to Whitebridge.
This is a big part of us disagreeing. Hayden was saying, I'm sad that old Captain Pete wasn't there in the show. And
hasn't been there yet.
And okay? I'm hoping we don't get him because he was boring as shit.
He's one of the people that is crucial to the plots of the book.
I'm sure, but I didn't like him.
Can't believe you disrespect my boy Bale like that. Rand and Matt and Tom take a ride on a boat to Whitebridge. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I don't know if you recognized as important that happened on the boat.
Probably not. Just tuned all that shit out.
Rand kind of like has one of his first
That
interactive moments with the power.
I did notice that.
It's not very obvious. It's not super obvious, but he has this moment where he's like climbing up on like the riggings of like the mast and stuff like that. He kind of like feels invincible for a moment, like kind of loses himself like in the void. You know how he talks about the void all the time?
Yeah.
It's not very obvious to him, nor is it to the reader when reading it the first time, but this is one of the first times that he's like kind of experiencing being able to like barely touch the source of the power. It makes you feel like incredibly alive, like more alive than you've ever felt, right?
So unrelated completely to all of this, but did make me think. So Homeboy's dad, how come he never calls him dad? Or just do we not use the word dad in this story?
They do sometimes. Matt says my dad.
I don't know. What's his name? Tam?
Yeah.
They just kept saying Tam, and I was like, okay, but...
Tam.
Are we just supposed to... I feel like that is what told me, this ain't this man's daddy. Because he never calls him dad.
I can't remember, when exactly do we find this out in the book?
That he's...
Oh, wait, yeah, that's
adopted?
like... Yeah, because like...
Throughout the whole fucking story, they're
fucking...
like, you're a redhead. You're obviously not from here. A couple times.
Yeah, but like the whole intro to that is like whenever Tam gets stabbed in the beginning of the book, and he's all fucking goopy brained.
Yeah, he's like, your mom, and we took you, and you're not my son.
Yeah.
Like
that
in a
kind of
sweet
shit.
way. He's like, you know, we saved you.
Well, no, he doesn't even know what he's saying. He's like in a stupor.
I know, but we understood it as readers.
Yeah.
And it's brought up multiple times too. Once we end up meeting.
Oh no, I'm saying like
Queen and shit.
I'm saying Tam doesn't understand what he's saying.
No, but I'm saying we as readers do. So
Matt and Rand get separated from Tom in Whitebridge. He tries to save them from.
They're like,
a Murdral.
I think they say too, we left him there to die.
Yeah, and so he kind of sacrifices himself to get Matt and Rand out of there. Then they peace. And then we get, let's just like skip the rest of, I guess, like their...
Yeah, it's boring.
Like travel to Camelin. We arrive in Camelin,
and
right?
they're like,
except for
what would be cool?
On the way to Camelin, they almost get killed by the Dark Friend. That's like when that happens.
Yeah.
Which is like in kind of a different way than it happens in the show, because it's literally just a random lady who tries to like stab them in their sleep, essentially. Rand kills his first woman.
How many women is that just his thing?
No, it's not his thing. But he does, throughout the series, feel personally responsible for every woman that dies in the book. It all goes back to...
feminism.
It all goes back to the very first thing that we get in this book, this intro, with Luz Theron accidentally or unknowingly killing his own wife.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Ileana.
Okay. So
he feels personally responsible.
He kills a lady.
He kills a lady. This one was warranted. All right. But he kills his first... He gets his first kill.
I don't like this motion you're doing. It looks like you're rolling dice.
No, it's a stab.
I know.
It's like a shank motion.
What I'm more of like a this kind of stab motion.
This is a bad stab motion.
Why?
Why would you do this?
Because it's a good stab. I don't know.
No, this is the good stab. You gotta get your body into it.
Listen, if you're doing it like this, I feel like someone could easily turn your wrist and go like this. But if you're going like this, they can't really...
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Fair enough. Okay, but I just don't...
Because you can hold your arm stronger like this, and you're also supposed to like... You're supposed to fucking... You gotta put some body weight into it. You can't just stab someone like that. Like, you won't go very far into him if you just use your arm. You gotta, like, you gotta put your body weight into it, you know? You gotta use your shoulder.
He kills a lady. Moving on.
He kills a lady. They go to Camelin.
And he's like, oh shit, you know, be super sick while we're waiting for these people to show up who may or may not show up. What if we see Logan, because he's here.
Logan is the false dragon. He has been captured after... I'm pretty sure he's...
been gentled?
No, he hasn't been gentled yet in the book.
Oh yeah, because he's in the little cage.
He's in the cage, and he's being shielded, and he's being paraded through the streets of Camelin on their way to Tar Valon, because, not like how it happens in the show, they have to actually formally look at him and like in the White Tower and decide that he is a false dragon. I mean, he's already been like captured essentially, so in their minds they're like, yeah, of course he's a false dragon. Like, we wouldn't be able to do this to the real dragon, right? But I mean, he did raise an army and tried to like take Eildon.
So between the two of us, who do you think would be more likely to be a dragon? Take gender out of it.
The two of us?
Yeah. Who's more dragon? I feel like I'm more dragon.
No. See, and like the reason why you couldn't be dragon is because you feel more dragon. You would be a false dragon. Like that's the whole thing. Like think about the difference the difference between Rand and Logan. Logan is like, I am the dragon. His ass gets still.
No, I'd be a red Aja and I'd kill your ass.
Okay. Logan's being paraded through the streets of town.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, a quick mention to the show, I really like the stuff that they've added for Logan because you really don't get very much background on Logan in the books. You do get to see more of Logan in the books, but you don't, even what you see of him, you never get really anything prior to seeing him in book 1. You don't get any of the actual like backstory of Logan.
I know, and so I appreciated that they added that.
It was a nice way to explain like who he was, like his personality and stuff like that. Anyways, he's being paraded through the streets of town.
And then Homeboy gets captured because he gets captured.
Huh?
Matt and Rand, they are like spying or some shit.
Okay,
And
Matt is asleep in the hotel, or in the inn,
oh, yeah,
the whole time. He's like, I don't want to go fucking anywhere. I'm a real piece of shit.
Rand is out doing some fuck shit, and he gets captured.
Rand, oh my goodness, you were so bad at this. Is trying to go see Logan, and there's this weird fucker following him in the crowds, and so he's like, I gotta get out of this crowd. And so he finds this wall to climb up on top of to get a good view of Logan.
Exactly.
Logan's being paraded through. He cackles maniacally in Rand's direction. And then Rand falls off the wall and bonks his head on a tree and falls into this garden. Inside the garden, we find out that he has fallen into the royal garden, essentially. And we meet the princess, Elaine.
Here's the thing. I feel like I was on the right track, but I forgot a couple of key details. I mean, not forgot. In my head, I had it. But he gets captured by these motherfuckers. They're like, you're not supposed to be here. But, like, she likes him. She's like, you're a hottie.
Yeah, but he doesn't just immediately get captured.
No, I know. There's, like, a little bit of chatting.
Yeah, he hurts himself. She helps heal him. You find out that she's being taught by Aes Sedai.
Teachers and shit.
Yeah.
She pulls out her goops.
We meet Gowan, her brother. The brother that she likes. And then we meet Galad, her half-brother, or like stepbrother.
They were the same fucking person.
No. Right. Galad, the stepbrother.
I'd be pissed if I had a name like that.
Who is a goody two-shoes, but also like the most attractive man in the whole book series.
Oh yeah, no, I remember. Yeah.
So I am excited to see who they choose for Galad. There's a couple of characters in the whole series that are like time and time again described as being the most beautiful person of all time.
They've been doing a good job though, because they describe Rand as being kind of a hottie in this scene.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
You're a hottie, and in the show, he's a hottie.
But that's what I'm saying. They only describe him as kind of attractive. You know what I mean? Like he's good looking, but I'm saying
a princess wants to bone him. I think he's probably pretty.
I'm saying every female in the entire book series sees Galad and starts watering at the mouth. Like, starts salivating.
I didn't know where that was going, but I'm glad we went that direction.
Yeah. Like, they make a big deal about it, and they really don't make a big deal about Rand's attractiveness. Like, he's attractive for sure, but, like, not in the same way, you know? So I'm excited to see who they pick for Galad. He's a goody two-shoes, and he's like, this guy is carrying a sword, and he's trespassing. We're gonna have to take you in, buddy. And
like I said, he was captured.
They get the palace guards involved. They take him in front of the queen. They're like, this man's a rat in the walls, and we don't know if he was trying to kill the princess. And she's like, no, he's a chiller. And then you find out that her main advisor is an Aes Sedai by the name of Elida. She's a red sister. Morghese is like, hey, Elida, why don't you take a look at him and see if you, like, see anything? And she's like, I don't like the look of this one. We should lock him up forever. And Morghese is like, well, he hasn't really done anything, so I'm not going to do that. You're free to go. And Rand's like, I can't believe I just met all these motherfuckers. No one's ever going to know. Oh, and right before this, he meets an Ogier by the name of Loyal.
He does. Also, something I would point out is that this is another time when we're like, you're motherfucking adopted, because she's like, yeah, I ain't never seen a man with red hair from the Two Rivers.
Yeah.
There's no way. And also, this sword you've got, yeah, I don't think you're who you say you are. And so he has to really, like, prove himself.
Yeah.
And in, like, the emphatic way that he says, like, no, this is who I am, they're like, okay, yeah, we kind of believe you. There's no one who would be, they mention it, that no one would be this confident with a lie, basically.
Yeah.
Even though it's very unbelievable.
He meets an Ogier, and so he's kind of like hanging out with this Ogier at the inn and like talking.
Why can't they just call him an ogre? I just feel like some of the choices of pronunciation and spelling here were a little irritating.
How would you imagine if they said ogre? What would he look like?
Shrek.
Exactly.
But isn't he like Trolloc-esque?
No, he's just big and hairy.
yeah, but that's literally what Rand or Matt says at the beginning of meeting him.
Oh, yeah.
They're like,
sure.
oh shit.
But it's just because he's big and
scary.
hairy. Yeah, he's just big and hairy.
They literally mention a Trolloc.
And he has, like, big, like, tufted ears. But he doesn't have, like, an animal face like Trollocs have.
So he's a human? Just like a really hairy man?
Kind of, but also, like, really, really big.
Well, yeah.
But he looks pretty much human, yeah.
And
but, like, hairy.
His name is Loyal?
His name's Loyal.
But it's spelled with an I. Again,
yes.
Choices were made, and they're not helping me pronounce things.
Yeah.
I don't know. The listening experience is fine, but then whenever I was going to read those chapter summaries, I was like, the fuck is that? And then I was like, oh shit, okay. You're just supposed to pronounce it phonetically. It just didn't make sense. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Loyal is an Ogier. It's our first introduction to Ogiers in general. They're big chillers. Big
I really liked him.
chillers.
I think he might be my favorite person in the book.
No, yeah, 100%. He's a chiller. He's a real chiller. There's nothing to dislike about Loyal.
Very cool guy.
What happens? They're chilling. He's, like, telling them all, like, about, hey, yeah, I just met the queen. And they're like, no, you didn't. And he's like, yeah, I kind of did. And they're like, oh, are you serious? You got to get the fuck out of here, man. Like, if you had the conversation that you said that you had, you should probably leave, like, now.
And I think Loyal was saying he wanted to leave, too, because of, not, like, prejudice, but sort of. Like, he just, like, didn't really want to stay where he was at.
Yeah.
So they're
fair.
all like, let's trek together.
Well, and right before that, we get a reuniting of all of the Emmonsfielders and Moraine and Lan. Moraine, Lan, and Nynaeve, who saved Perrin and Egwene from the White Cloak camp, finally make it to Camelin.
Real hot girl
and they
shit.
find him.
Yeah.
They find Rand and Matt. And then they realize that Matt is all, like, fucked up by this dagger juice. We gotta save this man
From the Dark Gate.
pretty quickly. Yeah. Where do they go after that?
I don't really know. They kind of just walk around until they or decide that they're like...
No, I'm just kidding. I know where they go.
And then they go through the gate.
Yeah, Loyal is like, hey man, I hear the Eye of the World's in trouble. You want to save it? So he, like, takes them in a gateway. And
A waygate.
Yeah, waygate.
Yeah, and that was confusing as hell. They're like, ooh, there's a waygate. And then they're also something like, what the fuck do they... I don't know. There were a lot of, like...
They go through the ways.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
And, but then they also say, like, the wastes around the same time. And I'm like, y'all are really... With the W words, like, I'm getting fucking confused here.
Because they have to travel into the Blight to get to the Eye of the World. And the Blight is, like, outside of where people really live. I mean, there's a couple of places that are, like, in the Blight, right?
Whenever I think of Blight, I just think of potatoes.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It's, like, it's literally, like, a dead wasteland, but it's all dead because of, like, the evil. It's, like, evil ground. Yeah, so they go to the Eye of the World.
Yeah, it's a fucking pond.
And the Green Man is there. And the Green Man's a real chiller. I can't wait until they...
No, you
I wanna
left
see a
out some
depiction of the
important
Green
shit,
Man.
dude.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, so they're going through the
I'm
gates.
just testing you.
They're going through the gates. There's some spooky winds, and then they're being followed by the dude from town who, like, you know, the peddler or whatever the fuck. He's into some dark shit, and we didn't know this. We didn't know that he was, like, super bad. And Marine's like, I ain't never seen anything like this before. I mean, I have, but, like, not this bad.
So, I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't remember if they gave you that information in this book or the second book, which is why I haven't mentioned it.
So, I think what we're understanding is that my listening comprehension is up here.
But that being said, and I mean, like, obviously this is, like, spoilers for future episodes of the show. I mean, because we're talking about the whole of book one, right?
Yeah.
But didn't they pick such a good casting pick for Podon Fane?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember him.
The black dude? With the cart, yeah.
With the really, really creepy, like, evil-looking smile.
Yeah.
Like, they picked a really good pick for him. So I can't wait to see, like, the
Him
more
go dark.
evil sides of Podon Fane. Anyways.
Did they kill him? Is that how that works? No, she's like, I don't know what to do with this man.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, she didn't really know what to do. But anyway, then we go to the pond. The magical pond.
Yeah, then we go to the magical pond, and then two of the Forsaken show up. Agenor and Balthamel.
What about the green
I
dude?
believe. Well, I already said we meet the green guy. We meet the green guy.
I know, but I think he needed to be reintroduced
Green Man.
into this conversation.
Yeah,
So we got the green
my
dude.
bad. We got the Green Man.
The protector of the pond.
He's the ultimate chiller.
So I don't know if, I mean, he's chilling.
The Forsaken show
eternally
up.
chilling.
The Forsaken show up because we find out that the Eye of the World contains one of the seals of the Dark One's prison. The Dark One is currently imprisoned. His prison is like, kind of like spiritual, metaphysical prison, is being held by the One Power with these seals that were made by, like, Aes Sedai in the Age of Legends.
I'm imagining a baby seal.
They are made of this material that is unbreakable.
Okay.
Everyone's still concerned that they might be broken or fall into the wrong hands where someone might try to break them, because if they break the seals on the prison, then Darkwind gets out, right?
Yeah.
No one wants that.
It's like a Flex Seal.
Yes, it's like Flex Seal. Yeah, so the Forsaken show up, and they're like, we're gonna need that. And
Give me that tape.
And Moraine and the Green Man and everyone are like, nah. And so they fight. And I'm pretty sure that Agenor and the Green Man fight and kill each other. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of them kind of fight Balthamel.
Beelzebub.
And Rand goes into this kind of fugue state thing where he unknowingly is like kind of male channeling, kills a bunch of Trollocs, and also
he like talks to who he thinks is the Dark One.
Fights Baelzamon, who he's been seeing in his dreams this entire book. He keeps having these dreams where he's seeing this man who's like really evil as shit, and he's talking to him and he's like, you're mine and you'll always be mine, and you know, all this stuff. Yeah. And like every time he has the dream, something will happen, like he'll get a little scratch on his arm, or like, you know, like you'll see a rat or something like that, and then he wakes up and that shit is like, just that part of it is like real in the real world. And so you know that these dreams are something else, and you also find out that Matt and Perrin have also been having the dreams, which kind of adds to, you know, the question of like which one of them is the dragon. Even though in the books it's kind of obvious, I think it's going to add a lot to the show of the question of like who is the dragon, which one of them. So anyways, Rand ends up going in and fighting this guy, and then he slays him, and he's like, I just killed the Dark One. That's kind of where book 1 ends. Oh, and then they go check out the Eye of the World. They get the seal. They also get the Horn of Valir.
I don't remember any of this. I mean, I do kind of.
It's a horn. It's just a normal horn, right? But once it is blown by someone, it summons heroes from the Age of Legends to fight for you in battle.
I vaguely remember this.
It's like it's a horn that summons a ghost army.
Pretty sick.
But whoever blows it is now like the owner of the Horn of Valir, and it, for anyone else, it is just a normal horn until that person dies.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. The one thing, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like what was most interesting to me at the end of this book was like, we've kind of figured out who the dude is, who the dragon is, and Moraine like doesn't really want to help.
Wait, what do you mean?
I vaguely remember like hearing something about like, okay, it's obvious that you can channel,
but
I can't help you.
She knows that it is Rand, but she's trying to figure out what exactly to do with this information. And I mean, the obvious answer is she has to take him to Tar Valon because that's like her duty. Mm-hmm. But she's also like, I'm not sure that I want to do that because maybe you need to like figure stuff out on your own. Maybe you're not ready to go to Tar Valon yet. Yeah. But like, she also is not telling anyone else. Like, she only tells Lan that like, for sure it's Rand.
Okay, yeah. But I really, what I took away from the end was that she kind of abandoned him.
No, she definitely doesn't.
I don't know. Just vibes. Vibes.
Yeah, no, it's vibes. Like, Moraine is there.
I mean, yeah, she's obviously not gonna like not be a player in the next book. I get that, but
yeah,
just the way that she is like, she's like, yeah, like I know how to do this, but like you're a dude, so I don't really. It's different.
Well, yeah, she can't. She can't
really
help you. She can't help him. Yeah, she can't help him with like the channeling part of it.
And she didn't really feel too apologetic about it.
Well, she can't. There's literally nothing she can do about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's. I think they even describe it in the book as like bird trying to teach a fish how to fly.
Some shit like that. Versa. I thought there was a dog in the equation at some point.
Maybe there is. I don't know.
Anyway, that's the book.
Yeah.
We read it.
That's the book.
I apparently understood more than I thought that I did.
Yeah.
And I might read the next one.
I'm proud of you.
I may or may not read the next one. I guess we could talk a little bit more about the show, because I don't think we covered everything about the show, right? Like, there's some stuff that you probably want to talk about.
No, that was just kind of it. Like, like I mentioned, I wish that they would have added Mordith, the, like, kind of spooky figure from Shadow.
Yeah, whenever they're in Shadow, like, in the show, there's no man.
Yeah, and also Lan is just like, don't touch anything. And then Matt's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then he just, like, walks outside and he's like, oh, I guess there's a dagger here. I'll just pick up this, you know?
But you know what I do think? I do think that okay, yeah, you said the guy's important at some point, right? Like, we need him as a character.
Tom?
No, the...
Mordith?
The Jewel Man, yeah.
Mordeth? Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I wouldn't say that he's like crucial, but he definitely comes up like multiple times.
What I think though is that they did set. I don't feel like it was totally ridiculous for Matt to just pick it up, because throughout the beginning of the show we're shown that he's kind of a thief, so it's not really that random for him to pick shit up.
Yeah, but that's also what's weird, like the weird choice, because he's not really a thief in the books. Like, he's a troublemaker and he's a prankster.
I kind of like that he's
but
a thief.
he's not a thief.
I don't know. I think it makes him a little more swashbuckling.
In fact, he's known to, at least like later in the books, they talk about how he's a very hard man to pin down, but if you ever get an oath out of him, he always follows through on his oath. Like, he's an honorable man.
But you can still steal shit if you
want.
want.
He always helps people out.
Yeah, but you can help people and still steal from other people.
I guess, but he doesn't, though. He's not really a thief. I really hope that we see more of Tom.
You know what? I forgot to talk about something that I actually cared about. I thought they actually did better in the show was the relationship between Lan and Nynaeve.
Lan and Nynaeve?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's in the book and in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. What the fuck was that in the book? It made no sense.
Oh, it's a slow burn. Their relationship is a slow
No, I'm
burn.
sure it is, but it was just really random. I thought it was random because I didn't feel like there was enough build-up for the interaction that they have, which we kind of forgot about talking about whenever they go to Lan's hometown.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, like, talking about how if I ever see you, like, marry another man, like, I'll be so sad about it. And I'm like, where the fuck is this coming from? Whereas in the show, they have that, like, interaction whenever they are, I don't know, whenever he gets goddamn sliced by Logan's, what is it, an axe just kind of, like, shattering?
Yeah, but, like, that one felt kind of a little bit forced for me, too, because, like, in my opinion, we needed more connection between the two of them before that happened.
We got that. We got him telling her what the last words that her parents said to her meant.
Yeah, for sure.
I just felt like...
But he's only, like, they've only known each other for, like, a day at this point,
I mean,
you know?
But he wasn't saying, hey, if you marry anyone, I'm gonna be really sad. Like, he doesn't say that in the show yet, but, like, there's enough there. And in the book, I really feel like the only time that they really have any sort of, like, chemistry is that moment. And I'm like, what the where's this coming from, sir?
Yeah, it's because they don't really have chemistry in the book. Like, they're both so like walled off from their own emotions.
I mean, fair enough. Like, I get it, but I'm just saying, like, in the book, it kind of comes out of nowhere. I feel like in the show it does not. I feel like there are enough moments and it makes sense. And yeah, they're not, like, making out yet, but I'm liking where things are heading. So I just thought I'd mention that. You know, I'm here for the romance, so.
Also, yeah, I hope that we see more of Tom, because they already didn't add it. He's supposed to be there in Emmons Field for Beltane, in the books.
Yeah.
In the show, they don't see him until they get to what I'm assuming is Whitebridge in the show.
They say it at the beginning, or like show a little.
Also, like, right after they leave Whitebridge, Tom helps them, like, kill the Dark Friend in the city, and then they all leave together and they go to this farm village or this little, like, farmhouse to sleep in someone's barn, essentially. In the middle of the night, they wake up, they have a spooky dream, they wake up, the whole family is dead inside.
So but he's helped them multiple times at this point, because he helped kill the Dark Friend in Whitebridge, and then whenever they go to the thing, he also helps whenever Matt's got the dagger.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I'm assuming that scene right there that we witnessed at the end of, I guess, the last episode, where Matt sees the Murdral, and then Tom is like, get out of here, and is fighting the Murdral. I'm assuming that that's supposed to be the equivalent of when Tom does that for them in Whitebridge, and, like, sacrifices himself.
Fair enough.
So I'm like, is that it?
I don't want to.
Is that just, like, 2 episodes that we get of Tom?
Okay. I'm not sad.
He's such a big influence on Rand.
Whatever.
And Matt. It's important. But anyways, yeah, that's it. That is it.
It was a time, and I did it, and I'm really proud of me. So
I mean, obviously I like this book because it sets up such an important series.
Obviously, I like this book.
And the show, I think a lot of Wheel of Time readers probably feel the same about the show, that it is kind of like yet to be seen how I feel about it, because, you know, just based on what they've shown so far, it's very difficult to tell what they're going to add in and what they're going to take out. So it's like kind of a different story. And, you know, like, obviously I'm not trying to hold them to the books.
Yeah. Like, I think it's fine to make it a little different. And in fact, I think as long as you keep the spirit of it and you keep, like, the most important plot points, I kind of don't care what you change otherwise. And I know some people are very, like, purists. Like, they want almost every detail to be the same. I don't care very much. And I think it makes for a more interesting experience. Like, we've already read the book. I want it to be at least a little different, a little bit interesting.
Yeah, and like I said, I really like for the most part, I really actually like the stuff that they've added in to the show that wasn't in the book. There's just like a couple of characters that I think it's going to be really weird if they don't add them in, because I find them very crucial to the story, and or these characters show back up to do very important things many times throughout the book series. And so I just, there's a couple of characters like that I'm like, how are you gonna, why would you not have them in, and what are you gonna do if you don't have them in, you know? Are they just, that character's literally just gonna not exist? Because that's just kind of weird to me. Like, why would you do that?
Fair enough. And I appreciate you for watching. Next...
Probably a long one, right?
Yeah, next DBBC is going to be me getting my... I was going to say revenge, not really revenge, but Hayden's going to be reading my favorite romance, Plum 57.
What do you mean? All of these DBBCs have been your revenge. Every one of them.
No, listen up. The other
has
books...
been you forced me to read something.
But they're not always my faves or anything. Like...
That's even worse! If it's a book that not even you like and you want me to read it.
For the people, Hayden. This one we're doing for me, and I'm so excited about it.
I hope y'all enjoyed.
It'll be later in the month. I think it's like a week or two from now. There's only a couple weeks in this month, right? But yeah, thanks so much for watching. If you want to catch up on any more Chanmas, please do. I would really appreciate it. I'll leave the link for the playlist down in the description. But yeah, love y'all so much, and until tomorrow.
Until next time, I guess, for me.